Today, we're taking a look at two of WatchGecko's pilot-style offerings. But first, we're going to brush up on some very cool pilot watch history. That's coming up right after this. What I found to be the most surprising thing about the first pilot's watch is that it looks nothing like what we all picture when we think of a pilot watch today. In fact, a lot of that classic styling didn't come until much later. The Cartier Santos was actually the first pilot's watch and was the result of Alberto Santo Dumont's 1906 flight, where he took off under his own power rather than the rail and catapult system that was used by the Wright brothers for takeoff. After that huge accomplishment, Alberto Santos complained to a friend, which was none other than Cartier, about how hard it was to check his pocket watch while he was flying. Soon after came the birth of the Cartier Santos, which was mass-produced by Cartier with the help of movement maker Edmond Geiger, and consequently helped make wristwatches a man's watch ready for adventure and the masses by 1911. Shortly after Alberto's first flight, Louis Blériot crossed 31 miles of water to Dover with a Zenith wristwatch that more closely resembled the pilot watch DNA we all recognize today. A luminous dial in hands, oversized Arabic numerals, a large crown for operability with gloves, a bimetal anti-magnetic hairspring, and a case that could also be attached to the aircraft's instrument panel. Louis secured Zenith's status as a pilot watch icon when he recommended Zenith for its precision and reliability in 1912. Not shockingly, by 1939, the Zenith Montre d'Aéronef Type 20 was the chronometric instrument of French aircraft. The onset of World War I highlighted the need for precision and coordination, catapulting the importance of horology. During the war from 1914 to 1918, the now British Royal Air Force used the Mark IVA and Mark V pocket watches, with the Mark V pieces being used for longer flights. Known manufacturers for these pocket watches included the likes of Zenith, Omega, Doxa, and Electa. These watches were placed in the instrument panel of the aircraft and had long winding stems for mid-flight winding. The German pilots, on the other hand, had invented inverted watches suspended from their flight suits, making them right side up when they held them. Horology's trial by fire in the arena of flight and war created known characteristics that required function, thermal compensation, accuracy, and shock resistance. And it started the marriage and close relationship as watches being an essential part of military equipment. The next big development in pilot watches came from Longines, who timed the epic 1927 transatlantic flight of Charles Lindbergh from New York to France. In 1931, Lindbergh teamed up with Longines to tackle the navigational challenge of determining longitude when navigating over oceans. Using Longines and Wittenauer to develop Weems' second setting watch as a base, their partnership was a huge PR boost for Longines, and led to an hour angle watch, which added markings to the dial and bezel, which made it much easier to calculate longitude. A few years later, it would be yet another world war that led to some of the most recognizable and iconic pilot watches known today. Germany charged the Reich's Ministry of Transport with finding a reliable piece that could be used by their bombers, and early 1935 designs even considered hour angle indicators developed by Longines and Lindbergh. But the idea was dropped in the final design. What emerged is familiar to all of us today, the Buer, which were big wristwatches with Breguet balance springs, iron cores protecting the movement from magnetism, a hacking seconds hand for discrepancy corrections, oversized onion crowns, an upwards-oriented triangle or hour at the 12 o'clock position, accompanied by two dots, and flame blue luminous sword hands held in place by a double-riveted extra-long leather strap that would fit comfortably over a flight jacket. These represented the Type A models. The later 1941 Type B models had the outer chapter ring for minutes and seconds and introduced an inner chapter ring for the hours. The watch's FL238833 identified each piece as a Flieger watch used for navigation. Their name, the Buren, is actually an abbreviation which literally translates to observation watches. These watches weren't in fact kept by the pilots, but they were returned to the Reich after each mission. The Fliegers were manufactured by 5 manufacturers total. 4 of them were German, which were Elange & Son, Wempe, Leico, and Walter Storz, better known as Stova. And the 1 Swiss manufacturer was IWC, who produced pilot watches for both sides. Of the German manufacturers, only Leico and Elange used in-house German-made movements, and the others used Swiss movements. There are some beautiful and incredible examples of vintage and modern pilot watches, and while several of us might love the look and the history, not everyone is willing to pay the associated price tag. If you like the look of pilot watches, particularly World War II pilot watches, we're going to take a look at a couple of examples from WatchGecko that give you the aesthetic of historical pilot watches for an impressive modern day value. At the end of the video, I'll give you details on how you can win the watches we're about to check out, so make sure you take a look at that. This first model is the K1 V24 in a black PVD finish. These are also available in multiple finishes, including brushed stainless steel, bronze effect, which includes one with a date, and an antique silver finish. The V24 closely resembles the classic Type B dial Flieger watches from World War II, and a style that is now well recognized as a pilot watch. You have the 2 chapter rings on the matte black dial and well contrasted orange dial markings. The dial is protected with a sapphire crystal that sits with a beveled edge above the bezel and gives the K1 a very handsome profile. The push-pull crown is in onion style, unbranded, and pronounced, which is indicative of the era it's styled after. The caseback is a very cool screw-down stainless steel and stamped with the image of an aircraft, which to me resembles the classic style of World War II era bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress. The amber-colored C3 Superluminova applied to the indexes and hands makes this piece the kind of watch you want to have on when the lights go out. It's a pleasure to look at when the sun goes down and was one of my favorite parts of wearing this piece around. I had this one paired mostly with a black NATO and WatchGecko Black Simon vintage aviator band you see it on now, which keeps this piece in World War II pilot style with its riveted tops. This band's particularly comfortable because it does taper down, which makes it more comfortable around the bottom of your wrist. This next piece was my favorite of the two, and it's the K1 V27, which takes design cues from the classic Flieger Type A dial and modernizes it a bit by removing a majority of the Arabic numerals from the dial and exaggerating the size of the 12, 3, 6, and 9, making the dial cleaner without removing any of its legibility and widening the design of the sword hands. The matte black and cream color found on the dial is a more subdued and tactical look than the classic black and white combination you find most of the time. This one reminds me of the Zinn 556 on steroids, as that one's only 38.5mm, and the K1 is the size you come to expect from a pilot's watch. It has a push-pull crown in an onion style and shares the same awesome screw-down caseback found on the V24 we just took a look at. This piece also has the amber-colored C3 Superluminova applied to the indexes and hands, making it just as fun when the lights go out. I really love the way everything was loomed, and even the boys would ask me to turn the lights out so they could take a look at it. I had this one paired with both the black and brown Simon Vintage Aviator band, in addition to a few NATOs as well. I really enjoyed wearing both of these, and if I'm going to get picky about anything, it's the fact that the movement, the Miyota 8215, is made with a date complication, which isn't on either one of these versions, but when you pull the crown out, it does have an extra pull position, which is the position you'd expect to use if there were a date present on the dial. Overall, for the price of both of these at under $200 US, plus the additional 10% you'd get off, you get a piece with great loom that's well finished, a sapphire crystal, nicely stamped caseback, and an automatic that is hand windable, which I think is pretty damn good. WatchGecko has several variations of both these models and bands that we looked at, so be sure to check out their website and make good use of that discount code. If any of you like these pieces and would like a chance to win them and the bands, I will in fact be giving them away, and I'll mail them to wherever on the planet you call home. For details on how to enter that, click on the link showing up right now in the upper right hand corner of the screen, or you can find that same link in the video description. It'll take you to an unlisted video that breaks down how to enter the giveaway. I also know several of you are interested in the Purlons, and that review is going to be coming up very soon, so hang in there. In the meantime, I'd love to hear what you guys think of these and what your favorite pilot style watch is. If you enjoyed this video at all, please do give it a thumbs up, and if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. That's it for this one. CG, out.